Before I close out my study this morning, um, I I was go sit down, go lay down, go back and sit down, please. Now, dang it, now. Yeah, before I close my book from this morning, I was I guess I'm hesitating because I'm going to be transparent, but I was. It's like a couple of days, a question was in my spirit regarding weeping and crying. Was there a difference between weeping and crying, or something like that? And the, and then 2 3 days later, it was revealed to me about the different kinds of crying, because our crying has a voice. I guess I want separate the definition of weeping and crying, because I'm going to say I guess they're both the same, because Jesus wept. And so what I'm going to discuss is the different kinds of crying. Whether you're weeping or crying, I'm going to say they're both the same. But as I was strolling through the Bible regarding weeping and crying, I noticed the different kinds, because some of the ones that stood out, I'll mention, is the children of Israel. They were in the wilderness and they were crying to Moses, complaining over and over, and it angered God, because they were crying about how they had all the lush foods and things to eat, and now all they have to eat is manna. And that was God's provision for them. So it angered God. All of the crying, complaining they were doing was angering, making God angry. I think somewhere in the Bible it says also, I know in the Bible it mentions how we can grieve the Holy Spirit. But so yeah, that was one form of crying and weeping. Are we angering, putting God to anger because of the provisions that he's giving us? Are we complaining about it not being what we want, how we want it, when we want it? All of the crying and complaining could be grieving the Holy Spirit, making God angry. And you may get what you're requesting outside of God's way of giving it to you and God's timing of giving it to us. We may get what we're crying for, because all of the complaining and crying they were doing over the lack of not having what they had in Egypt, and the hand of God is feeding them from manna from heaven, they are complaining and crying. He gave them exactly what they wanted. He gave them meat till it started coming out of their nose, till it disgusted them. He gave them exactly what they asked for, and a whole bunch of it, till it disgusted them. So are we complaining and crying and for not having what we want? Or there's also another one that stood out with Samson and Delilah. God gave Samson power, and something about the riddle for the all of the people. nobody can answer a certain riddle Samson had, that Delilah, she cried and cried for 7 days back to back till it wore Samson out. So are we crying to manipulate, to a form of lying, a form of trying to get what we want through pretending, through crying, like pity, wanting pity, or trying to get what we want through crying? and and if we're on the other end as Samson was, or is someone in our face crying over and over as a form of manipulation? Because Samson got tired of her crying, and gave her the answer to the riddle, and he lost his power. Different forms of crying. And then we know we can cry from sorrow and pain, hurt. There are tears that God collects in a bottle, all of our tears. The other day I found myself crying, and it didn't even dawn on me till this morning during my study that me crying, what form of crying was I doing? I was doing a form of crying. I have to admit, in the beginning, I was complaining, and it was about my wood stove, the wood, all this collecting wood, all of this is cold, and my light bill, 300 something dollars, and I'm complaining. But I thank God that during my crying, starting out as complaining, it ended up as, but I know you got it in control, Father. I know that you are my supplier of all my needs. You are on time, God. You know, you're present help in the time of trouble. That weeping, it may start out as complaining, as recognizing it as a manipulative form of crying, but will it end up as a cry of faith? Even our tears have to end up in faith, knowing that God sees our circumstances, feels our has can relate to our pain, relate to our lack. He can feel, he knows what we're going through, the long suffering some of us go through. But just let us make sure that our tears are even of faith. God collects our every teardrop. Let us recognize all of the crying that we may do, but make sure that it's cries of faith. Because you know how back, or as it said, a lot of people may say, well, if there's a God, why do he allow starvation such and such in Ethiopia or wherever? All of the crying they're doing, nothing has changed. Are we crying tears that will move God to anger, or move God to 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 supply mercy and grace? Because our tears, our weeping has a voice. but what is it sounding in the ears of God? What is it doing within our spirit, our crying, our weeping? What is it churning in our spirit? Let it be tears of joy, tears of faith, because we do have a God within us and is concerned about everything about us. So let us move God to a recompense of reward and not a recompense of something that we got to pay for, or something that's going to we're going to reap pain from instead of reaping glory from. Have a blessed day.